Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon on this glorious, beautiful day. I'm just letting you know that there'll be a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. And there's a chat box in your menu bar and a Q&A box. So if you just want to type in any questions or any comments you have, and Siobhan will talk to you at the end of the presentation. You can't see Siobhan throughout the presentation, but she'll turn her camera on once the presentation is up and you'll be able to chat to her then. Okay, so Siobhan is Flynn. She's going to do a webinar this afternoon and the title is Navigating the New Retail Landscape. So I'll hand over to you there now, Siobhan. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mary. Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. It's a fantastic feat to actually have anyone attend on such a beautiful afternoon on the Friday of a bank holiday weekend, so I really do appreciate it. Just a little bit about myself to start, just to kind of set the tone. I have 20 some odd years of retail buying experience, but also sourcing, product development, and I've worked within the department store model, tourist market, subscription box, so kind of a broad range from fashion accessories to gift and Irish craft. So I kind of have a nice overview of the Irish retail market and also the United States and buying in Europe as well. So I think we'll just get started. So as Mary said, the title of today's presentation is Navigating the New Retail Landscape. And as we know, there's so much going on in such a short amount of time. Who could have envisioned such changes, such drastic changes so quickly? So as I said, I'm a buyer for over 20 years. And I suppose, you know, I like to say that I've witnessed enormous changes and challenges within the retail sector, both locally and globally. And as I said before, as a department store buyer, you know, when I started as a buyer within the department store model, it was a very strong offering. It was a model that was still quite buoyant. And I think that we've seen that change over the past few years, a move to online, a move to fast fashion. So I think, you know, we look at different things that have happened over the past several years, from the economic downturn and, as I said, the rise of online trading and social media. And we know all of these things have impacted the retail sector, some of them negatively, some of them positively. But in all honesty, I can't think of any one of these happenings that have had such a swift and significant impact on the retail sector as the COVID-19 pandemic. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to explore and examine the retail landscape. We're going to just briefly talk about what it looked like pre-pandemic. And this is, you know, quite interesting to think that, you know, so much change over 5 months is incredible. What does it look like now, and how can we weather this storm? And what does the future of retail look like? Can we embrace the changes? Can we help reshape it? We have to help reshape it. So let's have a quick look at retail pre-pandemic. And of course, this talk is really focused on Irish retail. So what was at the fore of our minds, or as far as our retail businesses went? And I think that probably, regardless of whether you're a new business or an existing business, at some point you sat down and you created a SWOT analysis. And let's say you created a SWOT analysis a year ago. And I pretty much guarantee that most of you at the top of your external threats would have listed Brexit for sure. And it was certainly the overriding topic of conversation in businesses. Certainly on that list of external threats, and I think I can say this with 99% assurance, would have been listed a global pandemic. I don't think anyone really could have predicted or foreseen that. Yet here we are. But what else was going on? We had online retailing, consistently more important. But I think people, some people adopted online quite quickly, others sort of held back. So it was kind of a slow burn for some. Social media as revenue streams and traffic drivers, again, really, really busy for some and a slow burn for others. I spoke about the department store model, so we kind of saw that starting to wane a bit, struggles, discounting. Fast fashion was still big business. And then there was lots of interesting talk along the lines of supply chain ownership and sustainability. And I think sometimes when people discuss this supply chain, it's probably natural to consider that it only affects the larger companies. But in fact, anyone who produces anything and sells it on to an end user is in fact part of a supply chain. So even for small designers or makers, crafters, you have your own supply chain from where you get your raw materials to the either retailer or end customer that you're providing your service or your products to. And then of course, competition. So competition is always there. Now, I think it's important to say that none of these issues have actually disappeared. They're all still there. They're all still waiting for us to deal with. They're only overshadowed by something bigger, something a little bit more sinister, a little bit more dangerous. But they definitely are still there and not to be forgotten. And then let's have a look at where we are right now. So what are we currently dealing with? And I know you all know exactly what you are dealing with within your own businesses, and probably for your sector as well. But let's just go over what has happened. Businesses have been shuttered. So there's the inability to trade for bricks and mortar businesses. Tourism is at a standstill. So you might be a tourist business that was largely dependent on the start of the season with St. Patrick's Day, and that was quickly put to a halt. You're in a bit of limbo thinking about when will tourism return for the summer months. There's been logistics and delivery issues. So those of you who have been able to continue to trading online or other ways, or continuing to supply to retailers who continue to trade, you know all too well that there have been significant delivery issues. Or even if you provide a service that delivers abroad, you would be well aware of that as well. And then from the point of view of retail, purchasing from yourselves, you may have experienced order cancellations, loss of revenue, obviously, and sadly, some business closures. But what has been most positive has been the strong online growth. And those of you who have been prepared by already having an online presence, hopefully have been able to sustain. So you may for sure have not met the turnover that you would have anticipated with your online and your bricks and mortar, but possibly you've been able to sustain your business. And that's really what we're looking for at this point. And then, of course, right now, you're in the throes of planning to reopen, creating strategies, how to go forward. So let's look at how we move forward. What is that going to look like? Because that is definitely going to look different for everyone. There's no quick fix. There's no one method applies to all. So I think, everyone's needs have to be tailored to their significant or to their particular business. So I want to talk about bricks and mortar and the customer experience. And we know that the customer experience will and has vastly changed. For many years, I have talked about the benefits of experience of theater within store and how important it is for customers. It's important to remember that that shopping and retail is a hobby for many, many people. And purchasing is also emotional. So when you take away the emotional connection, that experience, that sense of theater, shopping then becomes more functional. And that's not to say that people can't still enter shops and enjoy their maybe shortened time within store, but there is definitely a loss of that really pleasant experience. So if your shopping becomes less pleasant, how do we encourage customers to keep on coming in? And let's kind of talk about that a bit more. Shifting and declining consumer spending habits. So what are consumers buying right now? They're obviously buying loads of sporting goods and athletic wear, I think footwear, and things that we've been lucky, as I was chatting with Mary earlier, we've been blessed really in that we've had fine weather. So at least we can get outdoors if possible. But what else are people buying? They're buying some cosmetics as well. And I love the fact that some suppliers that I've worked with have been able to shift their production to benefit themselves. So focusing a cosmetic company that mainly uses or produces candles and soaps, all of a sudden producing hand sanitizers, fantastic. Textiles companies creating masks, fantastic. So there's lots of examples of this, and it's a great way to diversify and to keep your business going through difficult times. But also retailer plans, purchases, and assortments. So you can be sure that buyers in all stores, whether they're buying for multiples or they're buying for a single store, they are definitely having to reevaluate where they are, what they've purchased for the autumn, the stock that they're sitting on or is waiting for them, how they can move through that stock, how they can create attractive assortments within store if they are bricks and mortar, and what kind of space they actually have for that. And then of course there's the shift to e-commerce. So like I said before, this had been, lots of people had embraced it. It is definitely not something that's going away, but wow, all of a sudden it has been accelerated. So all of those consumers who would have shied away from purchasing online, now it's a no-brainer. The ease is there. There's safety in it as well. So it's not going away. It will definitely become or remain an essential revenue stream. And then the purchasing habits of retail buyers. So they have to adapt and adjust to our changing circumstances as well. And I will touch on that again on another slide. So I want to talk about harnessing potential. And this is really mainly about the customer experience and how we can continue to offer our customer this emotional experience despite not having a bricks and mortar. So we know that the most successful retail experiences are those that create memorable customer experiences. So human nature, by its very essence, is sensory. We experience, as humans, we experience the world through our senses, and we take from the world through our senses. So if you were a person who enjoyed to browse through stores, and by the way, shopping would be one of the most popular pastimes or hobbies, if you like. So it is quite a big change, quite a big shift, that you can't go into your favorite craft store and spend an hour browsing, touching, smelling, tasting, all of these lovely senses that we've been given to experience pleasure. And then all of a sudden we can't do that. But how do we offer customers that, say, via online? And you might think that that's impossible, but it's definitely not. So if we want to translate the customer experience to online, let's think of what, and I actually skipped this. So our stores were using this, I suppose, selling tool or marketing tool to compete with their online competitors. So stores, bricks and mortar, would be able to say, well, you can't offer what we're offering because people want to be able to touch, they want to be able to smell, they want to be able to taste product. They really want to be able to visualize themselves with this product. You get the customer to hold the product, you're halfway there, or even 90% there. But we can do this online as well, definitely. And not just for a retailer, but the designer, the crafter. We can replicate these experiences online. And you have to start to treat your website like a virtual showroom, making it inspirational. And I'm going to go into that more. So we're creating positives from negatives. Or actually, I'm just gonna pop back to the left, to the former slide, and just say something else here. So what I find for trying to create experiences digitally, what becomes really important is obvious, beautiful photography, but not just product shots. They can't just be product shots. They're important, yes, but they're not going to really give customers the essence of what your products are. We need to see lifestyle shots as well. See the product in situ, in use, and really create a vision for your customer. But as well as that, it needs to be relayed in a story-like fashion. So we have to be able to imagine that the customer is closing their eyes, and with your words, so obviously they'll be reading them, but imagine this, with your words, you are creating an experience for your customers. So you are giving them the inspiration behind your ideas, you're giving them the story behind the creation, you're making them feel like they're part of the process. And that is what I mean by experiencing. I also want to touch on government supports just in this slide, because there are many supports available for people who aren't up and running with their website yet, or who maybe are, but it needs to be upgraded. So have a look at those, and you're probably already aware, and I'm sure Mary has touched on several of them with you, but there's some fantastic supports there for small businesses who would like to start trading online. And yeah, sure, it would be better if you were already up and running. And yes, it would be fantastic if your website was great looking and had lots of fabulous content. But that doesn't mean just because it isn't that you've lost your way or that it's too late. It's not too late. So definitely get going on that. So we're creating positives from negatives. I think probably one of the biggest selling points, depending on who your target market is, and this sort of goes back to the last slide, in that you're trying to create stories and experiences for customers. Because if your target is a domestic customer, you want to sell them something that is beautiful, something that is going to enhance their lives. If they're still spending most of their time in their homes, then creating beautiful surroundings becomes really important. If, on the other hand, your customer is, suppose, maybe in the United States, well, you really want to focus on the fact that you're Irish made. This is really important to Irish Americans. As an American myself, I can attest to this, that there are countless Irish Americans, or Americans that could be fifth, sixth generation, that are looking for a deeper connection, and they may have latched onto Ireland to connect with. And there's no better way of connecting than being able to support small Irish businesses, being able to, I suppose, purchase something beautiful that's actually made in Ireland with Irish products or with Irish materials. So to definitely understand that the fact that you're Irish, that you're local, that these are quality goods, are real selling points. And we could talk about quality, because there'll be a lot of talk about quality and value, or value for money. And this one is always a confusing one, because it's quite common for people to confuse value with price. And it's, it's a fair comparison, to be honest, but really value is about quality. So what are you willing to pay for something, and is the quality deserved of that price? Value does not mean cheap. So if you are selling into a retailer and they're saying to you, but my customers are looking for value, so your products are too expensive, or maybe this is something that a buyer would say to you. Well, you have to be able to communicate to that buyer that your products are not expensive, that they're worth the price because they are made here in Ireland, that they're made using traditional methods, that they're made of sustainable materials, that they're quality, that they support local communities, they support local causes. So all of the above is important. And also there's the short and local supply chain. So this, I think, is really important. And I spoke about supply chains a little bit earlier. So yeah, it's kind of normal to think of, you think of supply chains, you think of IKEA or something like someplace like that, you know, is a massive business with a lengthy supply chain, many suppliers, many producers. Yeah, but even a small producer is part of a supply chain. And one of the benefits of having your supply chain here in Ireland is, yeah, things are going to be more expensive, but what can you do? You can respond quickly. So I think what we would have seen in certainly, and I can actually speak to this from experience. In the first 2 months of the year, for a client, I was sourcing something from the Far East. And as you know, COVID-19 had shut down Chinese factories quite early. So there were large delays. And this product, or the end result, had to get out to customers quickly. And unfortunately, the fact that the product was being produced in the Far East meant lengthy delays, and as a result, I had to go out and search for a replacement product here in Ireland. And what I found was that lots of Irish suppliers were able to supply me very quickly. And when I say it was short term, I am talking within 3 or 4 days, the capacity to turn products around. And what did that do for me? That instilled a wonderful confidence in that supplier. And it really helped. We had already worked together, but it really forged a relationship there that I will continue to do business with that supplier. They were able to assist me when I needed that help most. So don't discount yourself because you're a smaller supplier. You have a lot to offer by actually being that smaller supplier. You're able to respond to a retailer's needs quicker than having to go source something from the Far East. And then I mentioned as well, is focus on long tradition of fine craft. These are all really important selling points for either if you're selling into retailers or you're selling to the end user, so a customer. And I would envision that you would be doing both, hopefully. And then you have to focus on working together, forging lasting, mutually beneficial relationships, like I spoke about a couple of minutes ago. We can help each other. You can generate goodwill with your retailers by offering them quality products, by being able to assist them with ideas, inventive ways of selling your products, of talking about your products, of displaying your products in a digital way, and also in store as well. So for when those bricks and mortar stores open up, because that's definitely going to be an issue. Bricks and mortar stores, like I had mentioned earlier, are going to have to replan their floors, replan their selling space. So, I don't think you'll be seeing the packed shelves of earlier. It's definitely going to have to be a sort of less or more approach, but within that, there's a beauty as well. And if you, with your creative minds and creative thinking, can help your retailers to come up with clever display solutions, to utilize space the best way possible, to make your products even more attractive, to even in that short period, say people are only allowed in store for a half an hour, even in that short period, to really, I suppose, provide a marketing solution or merchandising solution to encourage that impulse buy. So we're saying then that the customer goes in, and while the experience has become more functional, there's still a little bit of excitement in it. And then we talk about the retail buyer and their purchasing habits and how they may change. And of course, this varies greatly from buyer to buyer, from store to store, depending on what their business is. But mainly, and I speak for myself as well, different things that have worked and changed for myself. But what is it that buyers are still looking for? And has not changed at all. They're looking for great products at a great price. And again, I stress, when I say a great price, I don't mean inexpensive. I mean that they are properly valued, that the product is priced at the amount that people are willing to pay for it, that it's worth that, right? But what's going to happen to these shops when they finally roll up the shutters? Obviously there are going to be strains on cash flow. Buyers will be looking for shorter lead times, definitely, and lower volume orders. So depending on the type of business you have, that may benefit you. You may not have the capacity to produce volume orders. So you might have a large multiple who would normally have shied away from small suppliers because they felt that they couldn't give them the volumes that they needed. But now those stores are looking for smaller orders. They're looking for suppliers that can offer them NOS products, so never out of stocks. So that might mean for you to look at your offering and to say, these have been my best sellers. I'm going to escalate production of this particular line, so I'm never out of stock of this product, so I can always supply my retailers with these few products without risking your whole business. So you're investing in just best sellers. And then buyers will be forced to look strategically at their assortments. I've already spoken about this, but also brands and space, right? So it's always been a fight to get into certain retailers, for definite. And that's not going to end, I don't think. And small suppliers will definitely have to make their case for a place in that assortment. So as I said earlier, what can you offer that retailer in, or by way of, or by means of assistance, making it easier to sell your products, making it more enjoyable, being clever and creative. Going forward, at least for the short term, appointments will need to take a different format. Now, this is probably a more personal thing, but not all buyers will be comfortable traveling to appointments. We don't really know how the trade show landscape is going to look. So what do we do in the meantime? Because we do have the Christmas season, coming up very quickly, and purchases may have already been made for this, for definite, but maybe not all. So how do we get to chat with the buyers? How do you show your products to buyers? What is the best way forward? How can you create a sort of trade show setting for your potential buyers? I think, creating a virtual showroom is what is needed. And a virtual showroom can mean several different things. So this can be achieved via photography that I'm sure all of you have been using, included in your buyer packs. Instagram, using Instagram, creating beautiful photography on Instagram. Again, really focusing on not just product shots, but really on lifestyle shots. So they can really translate into this sort of experience and story. But of course, your website. And I really, really do believe that your website is probably one of your best assets, besides your actual products, of course, and your skill. But your websites, even for me as a buyer, as someone who's constantly sourcing new and different products, I regularly scour the internet for new products. I regularly hop on to brand websites to see what it is. I suppose the website itself says a lot about you. How are you presenting your product? Are you just slapping the products up there and hoping for the best? Have you created something really beautiful that I fall in love with? And I fall in love with it. My customers fall in love with it. If you speak passionately about your products through your website, I take that passion and then I speak passionately about your products to my customers, and then they return to you. So the website is so important. I can't stress that enough. It's something that we've been working on, or what I've been working on with a client, are producing really interesting meet the maker videos. And this is a fantastic tool to have on your websites or posted via social media. Nothing wrong with hooking up with some of your fellow producers, especially if you're not competing but complementary, and sharing a space where you can chat about how products are made. Customers are really interested in learning processes, learning how you blow glass, or how you create ceramics, or how you create artisan foods, or carve beautiful jewelry out of wax. These are amazing skills that most of us can't replicate. However, there is real joy in watching someone make something, and I think a real appreciation for the product once you see how these items are created. And then, of course, even Zoom meetings. So maybe you need to show your new range to a buyer, I don't know, down, maybe in the United States, or possibly just down south, or wherever they are, creating a virtual showroom via Zoom. Again, using your words. So you have the visuals, you have your products there. They can't feel them. They can't smell the candles. They can't smell the beautiful soaps that you've created, but they can see them and they can listen to what you're saying about your products. You can bring that scent, that taste to them. So lessons learned and key takeaways. I suppose, the old Boy Scout adage, be prepared. Well, we say be prepared, and we try and prepare for all scenarios. But I think it's fair to say that you couldn't have prepared for COVID-19. I suppose that the better question is retail in itself. It's sort of a delicate business. It's it's definitely influenced by the ebb and flow of what's going on in the outside world. So we have to be prepared for the worst case scenario. So what do we think the worst case scenario is here? A new wave of coronavirus. It's not an unknown entity anymore. So making sure that you've thought through, or that you've learned from what you've experienced over these past couple of months. Okay, so I wasn't able to do this, but I can pull from that and I can create something else. Having a plan B and exploring alternative revenue streams. And I can't stress enough, again, your website. Your website is really important. And then nurturing your working relationships. So the relationships you have with your retailers or even your end customers, we really need to take care of those. We really need to work together to make this retail sector buoyant and successful, and to be able to continue to offer beautiful design, beautiful art, beautiful artisan products to customers, not just here in Ireland, but around the world. So I think I've covered everything. I'm sorry if I've skipped through. I think I've gone over time as well, but I'm going to close this off and put my camera on. Sorry, I couldn't do both at the same time for whatever reason. So if you just bear with me.
There you go.
Great, great.
Yeah, we can see now. Thanks, Siobhan. That was brilliant, Siobhan. Thank you very, very much. That was fantastic. Very
Sure.
presentation. Great. So there's a couple of questions in from people now. The first one is, do you think when talking about a virtual showroom, do you think video is just as important as lifestyle shots? Do you know the way?
Yeah, I do actually. I really do. Lifestyle shots are fantastic, but remember, they are static images. They're beautiful, and you probably, you can set the scene in a photograph. So those are essential, but a video is something extra, something that we really haven't used all that often, and I think done correctly can really bring something extra to your offering. I really think that you can really create a sense of your product through video. And of course, you need to work on it. You just don't roll out of bed and throw the products up on your kitchen table and start videoing it. We want it to look really nice. So yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, another question here from Jenny. She's asking, do you still feel buyer packs are the best way forward, even with high value items?
A buyer pack is definitely still important. And in fact, I think a buyer pack is probably even more important now because, there's a chance that your buyer may not get to that trade show to actually see your products in person. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to include high-priced samples within that buyer pack. But what I am suggesting is that you really take care to ensure that you are positioning your product, that you are highlighting your product, that you are showing your product in its best possible setting and form. So this is where your beautiful lifestyle photography will definitely be super important. That said, for other companies, and also and I'm assuming you're talking about maybe higher end home goods or jewelry. If there are retailers that you've been working with, that you have good working relationships with, and that you can trust, that you can send samples to, I wouldn't not do that. That is definitely an option. For new business, if it's a company that you really want to be involved with, there's nothing wrong. Get on the phone, talk to them, ask them if they would really like to see a sample. And I think for paper goods or beauty products. And I'm not saying that these aren't high value, of course they are, but including samples here, even mini samples, is a great way to get across what your brand is about.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. Yeah, there are a lot of retailers that will return samples that you send as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Somebody else here is just asking, which market have you been referred to here? It's been mainly Ireland. They're asking Ireland or the USA, but it's or both.
Yeah. So, well, mostly I'm talking about your domestic customers, so the Irish retail market. But this really overlaps. And to a large part as well, the United States. I've been working closely with a client, and our main customers are in the USA. So for anything regarding customer experiences, if you are a supplier that that sells to the end user, to the direct to the customer, then please take on all of that website experience, store experience, the storytelling. It's really important. It has a really positive impact on Irish Americans as well. So really, I would honestly say to drive home that point of this connection with their homeland.
Okay, great.
I hope that answers your question.
You know, that's brilliant. Thanks. Then Leela Doolan from the Design Gallery, she said, great presentation. Thank you very much. She's just wondering, how do you think small town businesses can access better credit facilities from suppliers?
Yeah, I mean, this is always, it's not just small, it's not just small businesses looking for credit terms either. There's always this, I suppose, fear, and it's not only from the suppliers. I suppose for some small suppliers to take on business with a small retailer, there's this little bit of hesitation to say, oh, well, I don't know, will they pay, won't they pay? They're still probably kind of deep in their memory, 2008 and the recession, and lots of unpaid bills and people being burned. The most important thing is to build your relationships. You build your relationships with your suppliers building their relationships with you. You will get those credit terms, especially if you can be the type that maybe orders often with small amounts. That can be quite helpful for suppliers, I think. They can see regular business coming in, and they can see that payments are being made. You should be able to be granted credit. So this is part of the relationship building. It has to go two ways. I would always, as a buyer, I will always be looking for terms, for sure, but I'm also at the same time cognizant of the fact that some suppliers need cash flow in order to procure raw materials for the products that I need. So I think it's about negotiating terms that best suits both of you. So don't just go in with a one size fits all, like I just demand a 30 days. It just doesn't work for everyone. So I think be creative about payment solutions as well. I hope that answers your question, Julia.
Yeah, thank you very much. The same person that asked about the market is just asking, is the Irish American market still important, and is modern work acceptable in it?
Yes. This is really interesting. I suppose, and I keep on. I'm sorry. I keep on speaking about my current client, but I think it's a really good example of how we have successfully combined the traditional with the contemporary. And it's important for me because I've always, through my career as a buyer, I've always tried to encourage new designers, encourage new interesting ideas coming from small suppliers. And you know, you're always, from the Irish American, you're always going to find customers who are just interested in shamrocks and, you know, the old fashioned, but that's because that's what they've been shown. So we've been clever in still offering a little bit of that, but with a contemporary twist, and then slowly introducing in the beauty of new Irish design. And I think that's what's really important. There is nothing wrong with the old and traditional. I know that it may not be fashionable. You may stick your nose up at it, but as long as someone else wants it, it's still relevant. But it's about, and this isn't meant to sound condescending, it's about educating the customer as to what is on offer in Ireland. We can't expect that Irish American to appreciate contemporary Irish design if we haven't offered it to them. So we don't want to discount that customer just because we think they're only interested in one thing. We want to be able to showcase the very, very best of Irish design. Okay.
Asking, do you mind saying what type of product that is that you're talking about with that client?
Yes, yeah, sure. So right now I'm working on a subscription box, and it is targeted to Irish Americans. And what I do each month is I curate 4 or 5 Irish products that go into this box, but I create a story around the product. So each product has its own story given to me by the supplier, the maker, the crafter that I've partnered up with. And then I create an overall story. So when it's sent out to the customers, it's an experience in a box. They open it up, there's history, there's a little bit of mystery, there's fun and beauty. And each time that we've done this, so we're on, I think, 13 boxes now, and suppliers have been definitely have been on the receiving end of reorders. So it's been fantastic. And I suppose the overwhelmingly positive feedback, and that, you know, the beautiful modern contemporary Irish artisan products that are out there. So there is a desire for them. There is an interest in all things Irish as well. And I don't mean just shamrocks.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Siobhan. Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I might circulate your presentation to the attendees.
Of course.
Today, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. That's been a very thorough presentation, and there's lots of thank yous and praise for your presentation there. So thanks a million.
Great. Thank you, Marion. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this afternoon.
Okay. Thanks a million.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.